Since our last update on the stars of My 600-Pound Life who died, tragedy has struck again. The most recent death was just a few weeks ago in early 2026, and 5 cast members passed away in 2025.
Unfortunately, my mom has passed away this past Thursday on Thanksgiving.
Each loss more shocking than the last. Some clashed with Dr. Now until their progress completely unraveled, and others were finally turning their lives around, only for everything to end without warning.
Even though I am as overweight as I am, I have to get up every day because I have 2 kids that depend on me.
These are the most recent stories of cast members whose battles didn't stop when the cameras did. Lives cut short, families blindsided, and a fan base left stunned. The 2026 update begins now. Pauline Potter. Pauline Potter was one of the most unforgettable figures to ever appear on My 600-Pound Life. She joined the series during Season 3 in 2015, already known to many viewers for holding a Guinness World Record as the world's heaviest living woman. At the time she entered the program, Pauline was in her early 50s and weighed well over 600 pounds, placing her at extreme medical risk and leaving her almost completely dependent on others for daily survival. Before the show, Pauline lived in Sacramento, California, where her weight severely limited her mobility and independence. Much of her care fell on her son Dylan, who became her primary caregiver. Pauline openly discussed the emotional toll of her condition, explaining how her size stripped her of dignity, freedom, and the ability to live a normal life. Pauline's decision to join My 600-Pound Life was driven by a desire to survive and reclaim her life. Not only for herself, but so her son could finally have a future not defined by caregiving. Under the supervision of Dr. Now, the early stages of Pauline's journey were extremely difficult. She struggled to follow the diet consistently and often resisted the lifestyle changes required for success. Emotional challenges and frustration made the process even harder, and her journey was far from smooth. Despite the rocky start, Pauline eventually committed more fully to the program. Through persistence and medical guidance, she lost enough weight to qualify for weight loss surgery, a major turning point in her transformation. While the surgery helped her begin shedding weight more rapidly, it didn't eliminate all of her struggles. Recovery was challenging, and she faced ongoing health issues that required continued medical attention. Over the years following her appearance on the show, Pauline continued working toward lasting change. Through sustained effort, she lost hundreds of pounds from her highest recorded weight. In later updates shared publicly, she revealed that her weight had dropped into the low 200-pound range, a staggering transformation that many fans considered one of the most dramatic success stories associated with the series. She also later qualified for skin removal surgery, further improving her mobility and quality of life. Pauline's journey inspired countless viewers who followed her progress long after her original episode aired. Her story stood as a powerful example of how determination, medical intervention, and perseverance could lead to life-changing results, even after decades of struggle. Tragically, Pauline's life took a devastating turn in January 2025. While traveling with her son, she was involved in a serious car accident when their vehicle collided with a truck and trailer that had been stopped on a dark highway. Pauline suffered broken ribs and other injuries. Although she survived the crash, her health declined in the months that followed. After the accident, Pauline experienced severe medical complications. She developed serious digestive issues, including a blockage in her esophagus that made it difficult for her to eat and maintain proper nutrition. Her weakened condition was further complicated when she contracted COVID-19 during one of her hospital stays, making recovery even more difficult. Throughout 2025, she spent extended periods in hospitals and rehabilitation facilities as doctors worked to manage her declining health. By November 2025, Pauline's condition had worsened significantly. With her health continuing to deteriorate, she was placed in hospice care. Pauline Potter passed away peacefully on Thanksgiving Day, November 27, 2025, at the age of 62. Following her passing, her son Dylan shared the news publicly and later organized a fundraiser to help with memorial arrangements. Pauline Potter's life story, marked by extreme hardship, remarkable transformation, and unrelenting resilience, left a lasting impact on fans of My 600-Pound Life. Latana Patain. Latana's story is a heartbreaking mix of struggle, trauma, and the harsh realities of severe obesity. Living in Louisiana, Latana had become almost entirely dependent on a caregiver just to manage her daily life. At her heaviest, she was 740 pounds, barely able to leave her bed, and relying on a motorized wheelchair to move around her home. Despite her size, she occasionally drove short distances to the store, but her trips were usually spent loading her cart with mountains of junk food, showing just how deep her struggles with food addiction ran. Her challenges didn't start with weight alone. Latana lost her mother at just 12 years old, an event that left a lasting emotional scar. Struggling with grief and depression, she turned to food for comfort, and over time, it became a way to cope with the pain she carried. By adulthood, this pattern of emotional eating had caused her weight to spiral out of control, creating serious health risks and leaving her physically limited. Latana wanted more from life. She dreamed of getting married and starting her own family, and she knew she had to make changes to get there. But changing lifelong habits is never easy, and for Latana, it was especially hard. Despite her motivation, she often struggled to stick with the steps she needed to take. The small setbacks quickly turned into bigger obstacles. Even when she showed she could lose weight under proper guidance, old habits kept pulling her back. There were moments where it seemed like Latana might finally break free from her cycle. She managed to shed a significant amount of weight when her meals were carefully controlled, showing that she was capable of change. But life outside of that structured environment proved too challenging, and she ended up regaining what she lost. The pattern was frustrating, heartbreaking, and all too common for people dealing with extreme obesity. Despite their best intentions, the body and mind can be pulled in opposite directions. Tragically, Latana's story ended far too soon. In May 2025, she passed away at the age of 40, with her weight having reached an extremely dangerous level. Her death is a sobering reminder of the physical toll that long-term obesity can take on the body. But beyond the numbers and the scale, Latana's story is also a deeply human one. It's about a woman who faced unimaginable challenges, who carried trauma for decades, and who longed for a normal life that felt just out of reach. Penny Sager. When Penny Sager appeared on My 600-Pound Life in Season 2, her situation was already critical. At the age of 38, Penny weighed approximately 530 pounds and was largely bedridden, relying on oxygen to breathe. Living in Maryland with her husband Edgar and their young son, her daily life was dominated by the challenges of survival rather than activity or independence. Even the simplest tasks, like standing or sitting comfortably, were almost impossible without assistance. Penny's struggles were not just physical. Years of food addiction had left her immobile, and she often used food as emotional comfort. During her time on the show, she continued consuming high-calorie meals even while hospitalized, highlighting how deeply ingrained her habits had become. Under the guidance of Dr. Now, Penny was placed on a strict diet and managed to lose approximately 40 pounds, enough to proceed with gastric bypass surgery. However, Penny continued to struggle with mobility and showed limited adherence to post-operative guidelines, including dietary restrictions and exercise. Throughout her episode, Dr. Now emphasized that surgery was only part of the solution. Without lasting lifestyle changes, continued weight loss and improved health were unlikely. Despite repeated guidance, Penny remained largely dependent on others and expressed little motivation to fully engage with the program. As a result, Penny's progress plateaued. At times, she indicated that she was content to remain mostly in bed, relying on oxygen, a reflection of both physical limitations and ongoing challenges in adopting healthier habits and independence. Penny later returned for a "Where Are They Now" update, In this follow-up, she weighed just under 500 pounds and admitted that she had stepped away from structured treatment. She no longer weighed herself regularly and showed little interest in re-engaging with Dr. Now's program. Her story remains one of the more sobering accounts in my 600-pound life, demonstrating the harsh reality that surgery and medical support alone are not enough to ensure lasting change. In the years following her appearance, Penny has largely stayed out of the public spotlight. She isn't active on social media, and neither is her immediate family as far as we can tell. As a result, it's difficult to confirm with 100% certainty the status of her life, health, or whereabouts. According to some online sources and persistent rumors, Penny Sager passed away in April 2025. But until an obituary surfaces, the truth of her passing remains a mystery. Lupe Samano. Lupe Samano didn't just live her challenges, she fought them day in and day out, proving that even when the odds are stacked, grit can push you forward. At 39 years old and weighing 642 pounds, Lupe's life was a daily struggle. Her body was under constant strain, her heart and lungs working overtime just to keep her going. Despite these challenges, Lupe had a spark. She wasn't ready to let her weight define her. With her support partner, Gilbert, she stepped into a program designed to save her life. Early in her journey, the risks were clear. Lupe had already undergone tracheostomy years before, a reminder of just how dangerously close she had come to losing her life. The fat around her neck had been suffocating her, and the surgery saved her, but it didn't erase the years of damage to her body. Every appointment, every weigh-in, and every meal became a test of discipline, willpower, and determination. At first, Lupe struggled. Even small increases in activity left her breathless, and controlling her diet was a daily challenge. When she was placed on a strict 1,000 calorie a day plan, the results were almost immediate. She began to shed weight, and for the first time in years, there was visible progress. But the journey was far from linear. There were setbacks, especially when she learned that her husband had been unfaithful. Gilbert's cheating created emotional turmoil, which threatened to undo the progress Lupe had made, and the trust she had in her partner was broken. Yet Lupe didn't give up. She confronted these personal obstacles head-on, ultimately choosing her health over comfort and support from someone who wasn't fully committed to her well-being. Over time, her persistence paid off. With controlled diet, physical activity, and sheer determination, she underwent weight loss surgery and skin removal surgery. She lost a dramatic amount of weight, and most importantly, regained her confidence and a sense of independence that had been absent for years. Tragically, despite her transformation and the improvements she made, Lupe passed away in September 2025. Dottie Perkins. Dottie Perkins wasn't fighting for a dream or a dramatic transformation. She was fighting just to survive long enough to be there for her kids. And even that felt like too much to carry. At her heaviest, Dottie weighed around 642 pounds, a size that left her largely confined to her bed and dependent on others for even the most basic needs. Life had narrowed to 4 walls, constant pain, and the quiet fear that her body was giving up on her faster than she could fix it. Dottie's story was marked by exhaustion. She was a mother, and that role shaped everything she did, or tried to. Even as her health declined, her focus stayed on her children. She wanted to be present, to be a parent they could rely on, but her body simply couldn't keep up with her intentions. Years of extreme obesity had taken a severe toll. Dottie suffered from severe swelling, mobility loss, and worsening heart problems. Even standing was nearly impossible. Over time, she became completely bedridden, relying on others to care for her while her world grew smaller each day. Food, once a source of comfort, had become a trap she couldn't escape. There were moments when Dottie expressed a desire to change, but desire alone wasn't enough. Her condition had progressed so far that even small steps forward felt unreachable, and Dottie's health continued to decline, quietly but steadily. Her body had been under strain for so long that recovery became less realistic with every passing month. There was no sudden collapse, just a slow unraveling. The kind that happens when someone spends years putting everyone else first, ignoring their own needs until it's too late. In June 2025, Dottie Perkins passed away from heart failure, a result of long-term damage caused by her weight and declining health. Her death left behind her grieving children, and a reminder of how unforgiving severe obesity can be when intervention comes too late. And finally, the most recent tragedy, occurring only a few short weeks ago at the start of 2026. Charity Pierce. Charity Pierce's story wasn't just another weight loss journey. It became one of the most emotional and extreme transformations ever seen on My 600-Pound Life. When viewers first met her in Season 3 back in 2015, she weighed a staggering 778 pounds, leaving her almost completely dependent on others for daily life and struggling with serious health problems that threatened her survival. Before joining the program, Charity had battled years of emotional trauma and food addiction. Her weight severely limited her mobility and independence, pushing her to seek help from Dr. Now in Houston. She began a strict medical plan focused on therapy, diet changes, and lifestyle adjustments. Early progress was slow and difficult, and emotional setbacks, including the loss of her mother during filming, made the journey even more challenging. Despite these struggles, Charity eventually qualified for gastric bypass surgery, which marked a turning point in her transformation. She continued working hard and later underwent major skin removal procedures after losing a significant amount of weight. By the end of her main episode, she had dropped hundreds of pounds, weighing just under 500 pounds, and regaining some independence and hope for the future. After the show, Charity returned for follow-up updates where viewers saw both progress and setbacks. She faced ongoing medical issues, including infections and complications from surgeries, resulting in the removal of around 57 pounds of diseased tissue and excess skin. Although she lost more than 500 pounds over the next few years, she also revealed in early 2020 that she had been diagnosed with kidney cancer and would face another surgery to mitigate it. Sadly, after spending time in hospice care for ongoing medical conditions, including lymphedema and fluid buildup in her lungs, Charity Pierce passed away on January 27, 2026, at the age of 50. Her daughter confirmed that she died peacefully while surrounded by loved ones. Behind every episode is a life still unfolding, with victories, regrets, and consequences that don't disappear when the cameras stop. Which one of these stories touched you the most? Subscribe to Living Large for more honest, unfiltered stories about your favorite folks from My 600-Pound Life. And if you're wondering, where are they now? Check out this playlist for more updates. See you in the next one.